My story begins with my mom and dad. They met when they were 12 years old in Maryland. They got married at 18. They were told it would never work. And they loved and lived and laughed for 66 years of marriage together. Right? They took a chance. Now, at 35 years old, they realized they could not have their own children. So they took a chance, and they reached out to the adoption agency, and it took 2 years, but they got that call one day that there was a little boy waiting for them, and his name was Michael. Well, 11 months later, they got an unexpected call from the adoption agency that said, "We have a little girl here, and it's Michael's full sister. Same mother, same father. Would you consider taking a chance and keeping them together?" And they did. They adopted me, and we were able to grow up together, my brother and I, and we grew up in a very loving family. We were told that we were wanted every day of our life, and we were told that although we were not biologically theirs, that in God's eyes we were always meant to be a family. I know. Well, fast forward 19 years, and I decided I wanted to head out and live on the West Coast at the place where the mountains meet the sea. So I packed up my car, and with my parents' blessing, I headed west, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I wanted to be at the beach in California, and I took a chance. I started a travel company. I met friends that 35 years later are my family. I was able to travel. I was able to share travel with my mom and dad. I took my brother and his wife and kids places, and it was so fulfilling to have taken that chance until it wasn't. My wonderful world came to an incredibly challenging halt when I was in a horrific accident. I've had multiple spinal surgeries. 1 year later, I was diagnosed with cancer. And 1 month after I rang that bell that I was cancer-free, my daddy went in the hospital, and he died that Christmas. He died over those holidays. Well, we moved my mom out of the house. She'd been in for 55 years. She died 1 year later to the week that my daddy passed. And I buried Rick 1 year later to the very day that my mom passed. I was broken. I was gutted. I was floundering. And my niece, who rocks my world, she's my favorite woman in the world, my niece called me one day. And she said, "Auntie," she said, "Dad's on the phone. Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yeah, baby, what's up?" And she said, "Auntie, I'm going to send you a picture. I want you to look at this picture." I said, "Okay, baby." And she sent me a picture. So I looked at it, and I said, "Allie girl, I don't remember you taking that picture of me. When did you take that?" And she said, "Auntie, that's not you." And I looked at that picture, and I knew I had a sister. And I always wanted a sister. I always wanted a sister. And she said, "Auntie, I'm going to send you another picture." And I looked, and I had a brother who looked exactly like Michael. And she said, "I'm going to send you another picture." And I'm like, "Incoming." And I got a third picture of a brother who looked exactly like Michael, who's here this evening, by the way. And bravo. But wait. I got a fourth picture. And I looked at that picture, and it was my birth mother. And she was still alive. She was beautiful. She was thriving. She was happy. And I'm in shock. I'm thinking, don't most people just find, like, maybe a sister, maybe a dad? Well, this was a big Italian-German family, and they lived here in Myrtle Beach. Now, I spent 60-plus years of my life telling people that I was Irish because I had blue eyes, and I thought Irish people were fun. Irish. So all of a sudden, that gets turned upside down, and I'm in shock. I'm just processing. And COVID hit, and I lost my career. I lost my business because no one was traveling internationally, and there was no longer travel. So I took a chance. I bought an airline ticket, and I flew to Myrtle Beach. And I will never forget coming down that escalator and looking at a very familiar face who was holding a sign that said, "Are you my sister?" And a funny story is she told me later that there was a woman who had come down previously who looked at her and said, "Honey, I'm not your sister, but there's a girl combing her hair up there in the bathroom that looks just like you." So she picked me up, and she took me to meet my mother. And then I met my brothers and spouses. I met nieces and nephews who are here tonight. And by the way, my niece is married to a fantastic man who's in the sheriff department here in Georgetown. So we spent a week together making memories, taking pictures, and laughing and sharing stories of our life. And I flew home to Cali, and I showed all my friends. I look at these pictures and look at this family, and they're a big family. There's lots of them. And they looked at me and said, "Cathy, we love you. You got to go." So I took a chance. And I sold my home in Dana Point, and I bought a house here in Pawleys. And it's been a most wonderful 2 years where all of those holes that were in my heart have been completely filled up. And the sunshine has come back in my world. And I wanted to share, and I'm grateful to have an invite, and thank you all for coming out. But I wanted to share that if God leads you to a door, He won't open it for you, but take the chance. Open that door, because it will lead you places and possibilities you've never dreamed of. Thank you. Thank you.